Let's turn now to that deadly daycare crash in Richmond Hill, Ontario. That's about 30 kilometers north of Toronto. Police have confirmed a toddler is dead, several others injured after a vehicle crashed through a window. At a news conference, the police provided the latest update on what happened. It was around 3 p.m. Eastern Time outside that bustling daycare.
Earlier today at 3 p.m., we responded to a report of a collision with a single vehicle into a building in the area of Yonge Street and Nottingham Drive in Richmond Hill. When we arrived, we had learned that the building was a childcare center and that the vehicle had driven through the front window of the childcare center. The center was open at the time, with numerous employees and children inside. At this time, I can confirm that 7 children, ranging in age from 1.5 to 3 years old, were struck, along with 3 adult staff members. Unfortunately, I'm sad to announce that a 1.5-year-old boy has since been pronounced deceased. Another child remains in serious condition, and the remaining children and staff remain in non-life-threatening condition. It is still early investigation, but I can tell you that a man in his 70s has since been arrested in relation to this incident. We are still determining the sequence of events. However, information right now has led us to determine that this was not a deliberate act.
This is such a tough story. It must have been tough for the first responders, for the families, anybody who has kids in their life, obviously thinking about all of that. What do we know about the children who were in this daycare?
Well, yeah, just let me start with the daycare. Is actually just posted to social media speaking about a tough day. And we could hear, when that police officer was speaking, you could hear it in his voice that this was a difficult day. From the daycare, which is called First Roots Early Education Center, they have posted a message saying, heartbroken and deeply saddened by the tragic incident at our center. Our heartfelt condolences go to the family during this incredibly difficult time. And of course, they're speaking about the family of that 1.5-year-old boy that you just heard has died, has succumbed to those life-threatening injuries. As for the other children, well, we know that there are 6 other children between the ages of 1.5 and 3 years old that were taken to hospital because of this crash into the center. And at least one of those others has very serious injuries described as life-threatening. And so we continue, as I say, we're watching for any updates that might come. And additionally, there were 3 staff members that were also struck by this vehicle when it crashed through that window. We know in terms of first responders that when they were called to the scene, and it was around 3 p.m. in the afternoon, that there were those who administered CPR as ambulances were arriving and taking those who had been injured to various hospitals, depending on the extent of their injuries. So in all, 7 people, 3 adults, 7 children. But there were 96 children inside this center. It's a very large Montessori-style learning center, accepting children from the ages of 3 months up until 6 years of age. There were a number of classrooms within this facility, and police were asked how far into this daycare did this vehicle manage to get. What we understand is knocking through 3 walls into 2 different classrooms, but they are still investigating just to see how far it had driven into this daycare with so many children there witnessing what happened. So traumatic, certainly for the officers, but also trauma, certainly to the staff and all of those children who witnessed this. And to that, in the press conference, we heard them suggesting that people reach out to victim services, given what they had seen and given if they were having difficulty. And among those have talked about the difficulty experienced today in the community of Richmond Hill is the mayor. I want to play what he said.
This is the worst nightmare for a parent, and I certainly am a parent and a resident of this community. And our community is a strong community, but this is, these incidents are the kinds of things that really shake us to the core. It's a really terrible tragedy. We absolutely, every single one of us in Richmond Hill, stand shoulder to shoulder and sharing a little bit of that grief. And it's a community that really does come together in times like this. We will do so in this time, and any support and all support that we can give to the family and to those affected, including the community, we will certainly be doing that.
One thing police were very clear about, even in the early hours of the investigation, they do not believe this was a deliberate act by the driver attempting to injure children.
No, and of course, that's what we were all listening for at that press conference. So they were made that, as you point out, very clear, but they don't have a lot of answers as to exactly how this happened. And now, early on, of course, we were all looking at the location of this learning center, and it is along a busy road, Yonge and Nottingham Drive in Richmond Hill. It's a very busy intersection, which was subsequently closed for much of the day after 3 p.m. after this happened. But what we heard from the police is that this SUV that the 70-year-old man was driving, that it was in the parking lot at the time that this happened. They were asked, did it drive front first into the daycare? Did it back up into the daycare? And they couldn't be specific about exactly what the entry here was. So still trying to figure it out. That 70-year-old man has been arrested, but there are no charges at this point. But that is not to say that there might not be charges still to come. As I was saying, this is a very, 96 children at 3 p.m. This is obviously a very big daycare center and one that many parents in that particular area would know about. And our cameras did catch up with those who were in the area who, considering enrolling their children. And there'll be parents, of course, who are hearing these stories, have children in daycare, and this is always a hard story to deal with. But this is what we heard from those who were on the site today.
This is heartbreaking because we have a kid that's, this is sad.
We were supposed to come here today, actually. She was supposed to go. She had an appointment here today to sign the kids up at the same school.
Yeah.
So it was unbelievable.
There's an expectation of safety when people drop their children off at a school or a daycare.
Yes, this is heartbreaking for mothers. Exactly. They trust the place and the government, everything here, and safety. That's very sad.
It is, of course, difficult for parents to leave their young children behind at a daycare. And yes, there is an expectation of safety. These sorts of things are obviously very rare. And in this case, what we are hearing from police, once again, to reiterate, this is not something that was done deliberately, though there could still be charges to come.
Yeah, our thoughts obviously very much with the families who are impacted by this. But I know you can't help but think about your kids who were just in daycare. You were the chair of the daycare board. And so you know a lot about that expectation of safety.
Yeah.
Sarah, thank you very much.
Yeah.